Welcome to part 2 of our series on youth underemployment in the majority world. In this session, we're going to look at the current state of youth underemployment across different regions. We'll be focusing on 3 key regions in this part: Sub-Saharan Africa, North Africa and the Middle East, and Central and Southern Asia. This section highlights where the problem is most severe, what patterns are emerging globally, and how different factors like economics, education, and social norms shape young people's access to meaningful work. Let's begin with a global overview, a tale of two worlds. Youth underemployment is a global issue, but it doesn't show up the same way everywhere. In general, poorer regions tend to have lower official unemployment, but much higher underemployment, meaning more young people are working in informal, insecure, or unstable jobs. In contrast, middle-income regions may report higher open unemployment, especially among educated youth, but they still have large informal sectors too. In high-income countries, like those in the OECD, about 80% of young adults between the ages of 25 and 29 end up with regular paid jobs. Youth unemployment in these areas, while still a concern during downturns, is usually temporary and sits around 12 to 15%. These economies also tend to have safety nets and better alignment between education and employment. But in low and lower middle income countries, things are drastically different. Formal jobs are rare. According to the International Labor Organization, almost 3/4 of young people in low-income countries are stuck in what's called insecure employment, jobs that are informal, short-term, or lacking any kind of protection. To give you a sense of scale, only 1 out of 5 young adults in low-income countries has a stable job. The rest are engaged in informal trade, subsistence farming, casual labor, or simply idle at home. Even in middle-income regions like Latin America and South Asia, informal work still dominates the youth experience, around 60% in Latin America and more than 70% in South Asia. Let's pause to summarize some of the key stats by region. We're going to look at 4 key indicators: youth unemployment rate, vulnerable employment, informal employment, good jobs rate. Here's a quick snapshot. In Sub-Saharan Africa, the youth unemployment rate is low, about 9%, but vulnerable employment and informality are extremely high, around 80 to 90%. Only about 10 to 20% of youth are estimated to have good jobs. In North Africa and the Middle East, youth unemployment is among the highest in the world, between 25 to 30%. About half of youth work informally, and around 20 to 30% have good jobs. In Central and Southern Asia, youth unemployment is around 15%, but 73% of youth are in vulnerable employment, and informal work is especially common among women. Only about 20 to 25% have good jobs. In East Asia, youth unemployment is around 10 to 15%, and informal employment varies between 60 and 70%. Latin America sees youth unemployment around 13 to 16%, with about 60% informality. And in Central Asia, youth unemployment varies widely, up to 20% in some countries. But formal employment is stronger in places like Kazakhstan. You can explore the full breakdown in the link to Table 1 in the description. Let's now go deeper into each region, starting with Sub-Saharan Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa is the most extreme case of youth underemployment. The official youth unemployment rate is just under 9%, which seems low. But this is misleading. Why? Because almost everyone must work to survive. The problem isn't joblessness, it's the quality of jobs. Most youth work long hours in informal trade, agriculture, or self-employment, often for very little pay. The result is what some call working hard but still poor. Only about 17% of all workers in Sub-Saharan Africa are wage earners. The majority, around 80% of youth, fall into the vulnerable or informal categories. They may be running a small stall, driving a motorbike taxi, or working as day laborers. Their income is unstable, their hours are long, and they have no protections. A surprising twist is that youth unemployment is actually higher in relatively better-off countries like South Africa, where people can afford to wait for a better job. In contrast, countries like Nigeria show low unemployment rates because everyone is forced to hustle, even if it's just for survival. Gender adds another layer to this challenge. Many young women face greater underemployment or drop out of the workforce altogether due to cultural expectations or caregiving responsibilities. For those who do work, it's often in agriculture or petty trade with low pay and long hours. Still, there are bright spots. Some youth-led tech and service initiatives in countries like Kenya and Ghana are growing. But overall, most of Africa's young people remain severely underutilized. As one report put it, only 1 in 6 African youth is in wage employment. Missiological reflection. This reality creates a huge opportunity for African churches. Vocational training, small business support, or helping young people access land or tools for farming could make a real difference. These are not just economic programs, they're ways of affirming dignity and living out Christian mission. Let's move to our second region, North Africa and the Middle East. Here, the story looks a little different. The major challenge isn't just underemployment, it's outright unemployment, especially among educated youth. Countries like Egypt, Tunisia, and Morocco regularly show youth unemployment rates of 25 to 30%. For university graduates, the numbers are just as high, around 23 to 24%. Many educated young people stay unemployed for years, holding out for a good job, often a government position or a professional role. This is known as queuing for good jobs. Educated youth often wait at home with family support instead of taking an informal job that doesn't match their qualifications. Meanwhile, young people with less education tend to work informally out of necessity, selling goods, driving taxis, or working in agriculture. This leads to a very polarized labor market: educated youth with no jobs and undereducated youth stuck in low-paying informal work. Public sector dependency plays a big role here. For years, governments promised jobs to graduates, but as those guarantees broke down, there weren't enough private sector opportunities to pick up the slack. So many young people now fall into a gap, either underemployed in informal work or stuck in prolonged unemployment. Migration is a major outlet. Many young people, both skilled and unskilled, seek work abroad, often in Europe or the Gulf. But that creates a brain drain and labor loss at home. Missiological reflection. In North Africa, the church can respond in multiple ways. For educated but jobless youth, mentorship programs, startup incubators, or career guidance can help. For less educated youth, vocational training through churches, like plumbing, IT support, or carpentry, can be a lifeline. And spiritually, churches can offer a place of belonging and purpose, while youth wait and search. Now let's turn to our third region, Central and Southern Asia. This region includes India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and the Central Asian republics. Together, they hold over a third of the world's youth population. The key challenge here is sheer scale. India alone has 360 million young people between 15 and 29. Most of them will face underemployment unless the economy transforms significantly. In South Asia, about 73% of youth are in vulnerable employment, mostly self-employed or working in family businesses. Many still work in agriculture. Others engage in micro-businesses, selling snacks, doing repairs, or driving rickshaws. These jobs provide some income, but not stability or benefits. Formal jobs do exist in some sectors, like IT in India or garment factories in Bangladesh. But these are small compared to the total need. A massive number of youth are still working poor, earning less than $3.10 a day even though they have jobs. The data shows that South Asia also has very high youth NEET rates, especially among women. Many young women are neither working nor studying due to early marriage or cultural expectations. In Central Asia, things are different. Countries like Kazakhstan have higher formal job rates, but others, like Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, see many young people migrate to Russia for work. At home, jobs are often limited to low-end services or informal trading. There's also a big issue with education-job mismatch. Millions of graduates in India and Pakistan can't find suitable work. Many end up in jobs that don't use their education, like clerical work or sales, or stay unemployed. Missiological reflection. The youth population in this region is huge, and with it comes huge potential. Churches can step in by offering skills training, especially for disadvantaged youth. Teaching things like basic computer literacy, English, or trades like electrician work can change lives. And for those who migrate abroad, ministries can offer care, support, and community in the places they work, whether that's the Gulf, Russia, or beyond. That wraps up part 2. In this session, we explored 3 major regions: Sub-Saharan Africa, North Africa, and the Middle East, and Central and Southern Asia. In part 3, we'll continue with 2 more regions and examine how underemployment looks in Latin America, East Asia, and Central Asia. Stay tuned for that, and as always, you can check the links in the description for full tables and figures from this session.